Hello and welcome to the review of the 2018-2019 official rules and coaches resource document for Interscholastic Unified Indoor Bocce. My name is Chase Hunter and I am the IUS Bocce Chair. On behalf of Special Olympics of Maryland, thank you for joining me today for this review. We're going to break this video down into a couple parts in order to not have to record this entire presentation year after year in case of rule changes or procedural changes. Looking like today we're going to break into three different parts. Part one is going to go over our timeline rules. Uniform requirements, I believe, are a part of this one as well. And then we will go into part two and beyond. So let's get started. Table of contents is hyperlinked so that you can navigate quickly through our document here. Our fact sheet link at the current moment is in need of repair, but we will have that up and running for you shortly in order for you to be able to navigate through as easily as possible. So our season timeline. It looks like November 15th is going to be the start date. Schools are not training for this prior to the date. First eligible date of play is going to be December 5th. Our first due date for documents is December 14th. It's Friday. This is our applications and our affirmations of eligibility. Monday, December 17th, our team assessment scores may be administered. So we are not doing our assessments before this date. And on January 18th, our postseason registrations will be due. January 19th through February 2nd, our district tournaments are going to be held across the state. Below that, you'll see we have a link here for our pre-competition webinar for our state championship. And it looks like our state championship is going to be Tuesday, February 12th. And our rain date here will be, or weather date will be the 13th here in Hagerstown. Teams will conduct the Interscholastic Unified Sports Season for a minimum of 8 weeks, with teams practicing at least twice a week and participating in 3 or more competitions during the season. Any issues with doing this, please contact Kara, and her information is there for you to do that. All right, let's take a look at the rules here. All right, so our court size and equipment. Okay, Special Olympics Unified Bocce follows the official Special Olympics rules for bocce found at specialolympics.org, with the exception of a couple minor modifications. The dimensions of the Special Olympics regulation bocce court are 60 feet long by 12 feet wide. We have foul lines 10 feet out from each end of the 2 end boards and is designated by a line and or 2 cones. Students using ramps, the foul line will be extended to 20 feet from the end board. Your dashed red lines there show you that. And midcourt line is marked at 30 feet out from the end boards with paint or tape or 2 cones. Usage of cones with this is really good for those with visual impairments. Your bocce balls, you have 2 sets of 4 bocce balls, usually 1 set of balls rolled by one team is green and 1 set rolled by the other team is red, and a small yellow or white target ball called the Polina. The official ball for our season here is going to be the Bubba Bocce gel-filled balls. And the link is there for your specifications on that to see those. United States Bocce Federation official weight and size of the bocce ball is 920 grams and 107 millimeters in diameter. The Bubba Bocce gel-filled balls are designed to simulate the weight and the size of a USBF regulation weight and size bocce ball for U.S. Open play. All right, Bubba Bocce gel-filled balls are a size slightly larger than 107 millimeters because it is soft and under normal gripping pressure will deform in one's hand to a similar size. The field is balanced for players who shoot overhand and underhand, such that either method gives a satisfying feeling of equivalently playing with a regulation size and weight ball. The weights are held to a strict tolerance of less than plus or minus 2.5%, about 20 grams. Bocce ball gel filling is a completely inert, non-toxic, high-density mixture, which is safe and easy to clean with only soap and water. It is safe for all plumbing and septic and sewer systems and can safely be disposed at any landfill. It is completely harmless to all animals and humans, and no gloves or protection needs to be worn when cleaning it off of your hands. Definitely a good note at state tournament when they fill or have to, adjust the size of the balls, there may be some of this residue on your bocce balls, and you can just wipe that off with no problem. Our roster and lineup compositions. A unified bocce roster is composed of a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 8 players, with 2 additional players, one person with a disability and one without, designated as substitutes. Guys, we really strive to have at least 50% of the roster be players with an intellectual or other types of disabilities, and the remaining members should be students without disabilities. All right, to foster a true inclusive environment, there must be a minimum of 2 students with disabilities and 2 students without disabilities on every team's roster. Teams must use a minimum playing lineup of 4 players for a match or a game. A frame consists of both teams delivering all 4 of their bocce balls. Teams may use a maximum of 10 players in a match with initial lineup, including no fewer than 4 and no more than 8. Teams with less than the prescribed number of players will forfeit the match. So for the 10, you have 8 players playing and your 2 alternates or substitutes. Teams lined up for each frame must consist of one of the following options. Option 1, we have 2 players with disabilities and 2 players without a disability. Or option 2, we have 3 players with disabilities and 1 player without a disability. Players with a disability are our athletes, and our non-disabled players are partners. That is what their roles are. A team which has 8 players, 4 assigned to one end and the other 4 assigned to the opposite end of the court. One end has a group of less than 4 players. The coach will rotate players needed to reach 4. And we have some examples below. Highlighted ends are your players that would be throwing the bocce ball. So with the lineups and with rotating players, you can do as follows. So in frame 1, so our first picture at the top of the page here, you have players A, B, C, and D with your 50-50 arrangement. Okay, they would throw, and then what would end up happening here, if you look at frame 2, is that players A and B would go down and join E and F. And then they would roll. Okay. And then frame 3, you would have E and F go down and join C and D. All right. And then frame 4, you would have C and D go down and join A and B. So we are rotating our players out. Okay. It's very important that our athletes get their time to play. And when you don't have a team of 8 players, you will rotate your athletes through. Frame 5 shows that E and F go and join A and B. So this is how we are rotating our people out. Substitutions for rosters of 8 players, as many as 2 additional players, 1 person with disability and 1 without disability, can be designated as substitutes. While substitutes can be made in competitively critical times, the allowance of substitutions is intended to extend participation opportunities to players and provide relief to schools that do not have sufficient students to sponsor multiple teams. Players with the lowest assessment score shall roll in the first frame. This is a precaution against coaches disguising a ringer who could be entered in competitively critical instances. Substitutes may only be designated for teams consisting of 8 players. Teams with less than 8 players will enter every player in the playing lineup. For example, a coach may not start fewer than 8 and designate 1 or 2 players as substitutes. Substitutions must occur of like roles, meaning a person with a disability may only substitute for a person with disability. A person without disability may only substitute for a person without disability. We cannot be mixing abilities here when it comes to substitutes. Substitutions will only occur at the end of a frame. So once a full frame is played, you can have your substitutes come in. When you guys do the substitutions in your games, especially when we're at district competition and state competition, please make it very clear of who your substitutes are and when you're substituting them in. Only 1 substitute per role. Athlete partner may be allowed per team per match. Substitutes may take the place of any player of like role and may substitute for different players on the same team during different matches. Once a player is substituted for, he or she may not re-enter in the same match unless in the case of an emergency or upon approval by a competition manager. Coaches are strongly encouraged to make substitutions halfway through the match. So, for example, one team has scored 8 points, or at a time when half of the time allocation has expired, meaning, for example, at the near 15-minute mark of a 30-minute match. Match is completed when either one team reaches 16 total points or a designated time limit. Our recommendation here is 30 minutes has elapsed. When the time limit is reached, the current frame is completed and the team with the highest point total at the time is declared winner. If both teams are tied, 1 additional frame is contested to break it. In a dual match, when only 2 teams are playing, one format used is the best 2 out of 3 game series, with each game concluding when one team reaches 16 points or the previously established time limit has passed. Sequence of play. One team has a set of 4 green bocce balls and one team has a set of 4 red. All 8 of these bocce balls are rolled or tossed in an underhand delivery during a single frame. And we'll have examples of those delivery types later on. Each player stands behind the foul line when delivering his or her bocce ball or the palina. Coin flip happens at the beginning of the game and determines which team rolls or tosses the palina and the first bocce ball. The winning team of the coin flip also selects the color of bocce ball they will use. This team has 3 attempts to roll or toss the palina past the mid-court line and having it stopped before the foul line on the opposite end of the court. The team is unsuccessful in all 3 attempts. The opposing team is given 1 opportunity. If that opposing team is unsuccessful, the official will place the palina in the center on the opposite end of the foul line. Okay, so if you guys look at your example down here, your box that is highlighted in gold, that is your target area that you want the palina to land in when starting. At no time does the team lose its earned palina advantage of being able to deliver the first ball. The player for the team winning the coin toss with the palina advantage must also deliver the first bocce ball. The team is composed of multiple players, therefore various players may attempt to place the palina during the 3 attempts. Okay, so remember, whoever delivers the palina will also deliver the first bocce ball. If the initial placement of the palina is less than 12 inches from the sideboards, the official will move the palina away from the sideboard so there is a 12-inch separation. After this initial placement, the palina can be moved by a bocce ball anywhere inside the court, including against the sideboards. However, the palina may never come to rest closer than half the court line, 30-foot line, or the frame is considered dead. So if a palina lands near those side walls, okay, it is moved out 12 inches from there. Now, if the palina does not land near the side walls but is knocked there by a bocce ball, the palina will stay wherever it ends its movement. No player may play his or her ball until a Polina or another ball has come to complete rest. After the first player delivers the Polina and the first bocce ball, the opposing team then rolls the next bocce ball. After that second ball is delivered, whatever team has its color ball closest to the Polina steps aside and allows the other team to roll its bocce balls until it gets one of them closest to the Polina. When this occurs, then the opposing team rolls its colored bocce balls until it gets one closer to the Polina. This sequence of play continues throughout the frame. Best way to remember the rule is if your team's ball is closest to the Polina, you do not roll another ball until the other team gets a ball closest to the Polina. A good way to use some language for officiating would be green balls closer, red rolls. Sequence continues until both teams have delivered all 4 of their balls, thus concluding the frame. Following the official determination of points earned, all players walk to the opposite end of the court and start the next frame. The one team that is awarded points is presented with the Polina to begin the next frame. Scoring. After both teams roll all 4 of their bocce balls, the frame is completed and the court official awards the points. Only one team can receive points in a frame. 1 point is awarded for each bocce ball of the same color, which is closer to the Polina than the closest ball of the opposing team's color. In cases where 2 opposing bocce balls are positioned very close to the Polina, the official will measure to determine which one is closer and awarded the point. If these 2 bocce balls are exactly the same distance from the Polina, then 0 points are awarded for that frame. So if you look at your example here, you see the 2 red balls, judging by the circle, are closer to the Polina than the green balls. So that would give red 2 points. Legal throws, we addressed this a little bit earlier in the video, so now we're going to go into some specifics. Players are permitted to roll or toss a bocce ball or Polina in an underhanded delivery, preferably using one hand. An underhanded delivery is defined as releasing the ball below the waist. Okay, so please be sure as you guys are starting your seasons and working with your players that you guys train this so that they are not releasing above the waist. Releasing the ball below the waist is a safety precaution to maximize ball control. Releasing above the waist will be considered a foul. The releasing point must be below one's belt. And your images below here show that from a kneeling position or standing. It doesn't matter if they're kneeling or standing. It has to be below the waist. Penalties for not throwing below the waist result in whatever bocce ball is thrown as dead. So there will be no points, no score, no nothing for that. If possible, say the referee will seek to stop the ball just delivered before it reaches the Polina or other balls in contention. The ball will be removed from the court and declared dead. If for whatever reason the official is not able to stop the bocce ball that was thrown, that was declared foul, all the balls will be put back into their original positions. And this would be the referee's responsibility. Your grips. So you have an underhanded and an inverted grip or an overhand grip. Okay, those are okay grips. And a ramp is also provided for students who are needing that. Foot position. Okay, players must have their feet behind the initial line. So with the foul line, if you look at the images, your player's feet must be behind that foul line. They cannot be on it or across it. This is yet another thing to sort of train in your practices and in your competitions prior to districts and states. As far as the line goes, it's not just for feet, but any other supportive apparatus cannot cross that. So the ramps can't cross wheelchairs, crutches, canes, etc. Penalties for stepping on or crossing the line is the ball that's thrown is considered dead. Once again, like with the fouls for throws, your referee should seek to try to stop the ball before it makes contact with Polina and other bocce balls. If it does make contact, those balls will be put back into their original placement, and that ball will be considered dead and pulled out. When it comes to delivering the bocce balls, players will wait until the ball has completely stopped before they would deploy another ball. When it comes to deploying your bocce balls, you can hit the sideboards or the end boards. Those are all fine and legal. Obviously, they can't go out of the court. If they go out of the court, it's considered dead. With Polina deployment, you can also use the sideboards as long as the Polina lands within the designated area, as noted above in the guide. Measurement procedures. When measuring the distance of the bocce ball from the Polina, the official should take the end of the measuring tape and place it on the side and in the center of the bocce ball. He or she should then take the measuring tape over the top of the Polina to the distance calculated from the center side of the bocce ball to the top center of the Polina. And you have an image there that shows you how to do that. A real good rule of thumb, and this may seem like a no-brainer, but just coming from my experience, I've seen otherwise. Definitely have two people doing your measuring. This helps you be incredibly accurate, helps you not accidentally move the deployed bocce balls in Polina. So having two people doing that is just very, very helpful. Be sure that if you have, any kind of volunteers or students that are doing this, that we train them on this measurement, just in order to have fair and proper measuring through the season and beyond. Ramps, there are many different types of ramps used for bocce ball. The one rule is that the ramp must allow for a player to deliver, which is a push or touch, his or her bocce ball on their own. There cannot be a device that propels the bocce balls without the players touching it. So you cannot have any kind of automatic ball rolling device. The bocce ball must always be touched by the player. Foul line for the students using the ramps will be extended to 20 feet from the end board. The ramp may not extend beyond the 20-foot line. Coaching or instructional assistance may not be provided by a coach or teammate once the player steps into the court. The player is not allowed to step back out of the court once she enters. So for our coaches, if you have something to say to your player before that bocce ball is deployed, it needs to be said to them before they step inside the box. Once they are inside the box, coaches cannot talk, teammates cannot talk to them. It is that player's time to deploy their bocce ball. Now, there's exceptions. For those players that require additional assistance and support due to their level of disability and are unable to deliver a bocce ball without appropriate verbal cues, a coach or teammate may provide this type of verbal support. In these instances, a coach or teammate cannot direct a player where to deliver the bocce ball and cannot provide physical assistance with the delivery of the bocce ball. This needs to be done independently by the player. So the players must aim and deploy their bocce ball with intent, and they must be able to do this on their own. Players that require additional coaching support need to be identified to the official and the other team's coach prior to starting the game. Please be sure not to forget to do this. It just helps make the game move smoothly when everybody's on the same page as to the level of assistance that our athletes need. Players with visual disabilities are permitted to have a cone cylinder similar to the 1.5 PVC pipe or track and field relay baton, or predetermined teammates stand behind the Polina to provide visual cues as to the location of the Polina. A bell or other sound limiting apparatus may not be used. No coaching is allowed, just cues. For example, I am standing in the back of the Polina. We'll check in position of points. One player from each team may proceed down the outside of the court before delivering his or her ball, and the player must remain outside the court while checking position points. Okay, so your players can move around the outside of the court before stepping into the box to deploy, to check the points and the positions of the ball. Court access. There's only one player at a time can access the court. Non-players, coaches, paraprofessionals are required to remain within the confines of the coaching box, the area from the 10-foot fault line to the end line or behind the end line. And you can see in the diagram where that coaching box is. Non-players may transition from one end of the court to the other between frames. Exceptions here for those players that require additional assistance and support due to their level of disability. A coach or teammate, and your teammate is the preferred option, may assist the player onto the court and, if necessary, provide assistance with physical balance, but may not direct, instruct, or assist the throw at all. So please take note of the coaching box, and for those who are in the coaching box giving instructions, just another reminder that you cannot talk to your players once they step into the box to play. Once they're in there, there is no talking to them and no coaching them. Something new to note here, electronics. Usage of electronic devices, cell phones, music, headphones, noise canceling or not, etc. are strictly prohibited in the competition area unless designated per IEP accommodation or supplementary aid. This is another item that if your athlete has this as an accommodation and is needed in order for them to participate fully in the activity, this is something that needs to be told to our official and to the other coach so that everybody is aware. Having electronic devices to pass time, to just for musical enjoyment, texting, so on, that is prohibited. We cannot have that in the competition area. It can become distracting for our athletes. Sportsmanship. In the spirit of sportsmanship, at the conclusion of each match, teams should come together and shake hands. Another thing that I highly suggest just practicing that prior to your district and state matches is just doing that, drilling that with your students so they know that that is the expectation going forward. Principal meaningful involvement, excuse me. The most important one of the 7 criteria for success of a Special Olympics Unified Sports Program is the principle of meaningful involvement. Fundamentally, the principle of meaningful involvement ensures that every player is given an opportunity to contribute to the success of his or her team through their unique skills and qualities. This means that every teammate, A, demonstrates sufficient sport-specific skills and game understanding, B, plays a valued role on the team that emphasizes his or her personal talents, and C, has an opportunity to play without a heightened risk of injury. All team members must be engaged and provide their own individual abilities and strengths. In so doing, athletes and partners may have different perspectives. The athletes on the team may not be accustomed to the experience of having their contributions accepted and respected. In addition, partners may need to be encouraged to play to their own personal best while being a good teammate to others. Consequently, when unified sports teams are created, it's extremely important that both athletes and partners are assessed as to their abilities and gameplay. While there could be a noticeable difference in their skills, the coach will be able to observe their overall performance to determine if they have the requisite skills and understanding to safely participate on this team. The goal is that every teammate should play a meaningful role and have the opportunity to contribute his or her strengths to their unified sports team. There should be a quality of social interaction and communication among teammates that allows everyone to participate fully and enjoy a positive experience. Indicators of meaningful involvement: teammates compete without causing undue risk of injury to themselves or others. Teammates participate according to the rules of competition. Teammates have the ability and opportunity to contribute to the success of the team. Teammates adjust their skills according to those of other players, resulting in improved performance by team members with lesser ability. Meaningful involvement is not achieved when certain team members display superior sports skills without involving their teammates, serve predominantly as on-field coaches rather than teammates or mentors, control most aspects of the game, especially during the most critical periods, do not train or practice regularly and only show up on the day of competition, lower their level of ability dramatically so that they do not hurt others or control the entire game. It is important that all coaches and program leaders understand the principles of meaningful involvement prior to the selection of team members. As you can see, Unified Sports further meets the mission of Special Olympics and embraces the philosophy and principles of Special Olympics Unified Sports. I don't see many differences. Athletes and partners both want to compete, and everyone wants to have fun. Don Hess, Unified Sports Coach. And this is where we are going to conclude part one of our overview. Thank you for joining me on this, and I hope that you join me in part two, where we are going to cover uniform requirements, player assessments, postseason registration. Thank you very much.